Assalamualaikum, Sister Nafisa. Welcome to our YouTube channel. We are happy to have you with us. Today, inshallah, we are going to be talking about your story as our sister from East Turkestan.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you for having me here today. I'm so glad to be here, ready to anything you'll ask from me. And thank you again having me there.
Sister Nafisa, can you tell us about yourself, your family, your experiences?
Of course, I'm from East Turkestan. I was born in Urumqi in East Turkestan. I studied until the 6th grade in East Turkestan, and then after that in 2015 we came to Turkey with my family. My other relatives, cousins, grandma, grandpa, and everyone is in East Turkestan right now, and I can't have any information about them. I started to study here, and now I'm in Istanbul University and studying journalism. Next year I'll be graduating, inshallah. So the reason that I chose journalism is to get information from my family also, in East Turkestan because of Chinese Communist Party, because of the genocide and oppressing that. When I was in East Turkestan, YouTube, Instagram, Google, and everything was forbidden. We just can't go into WeChat, so-called Chinese WhatsApp maybe, with that WeChat with our friends and family. We never had a contact from outside of our world, outside of East Turkestan. So now we all have WeChat, we can use it here, but if our family contact with us, they would be in concentration camp or in a prison.
If they try to call you, what will happen to them?
As I said, some police would come to their house and they would check their phone. Also in the streets, police or any army, if they could anytime check your phone in the street. Also they have I think they have a screen in there, in every neighborhood's the police center, and they would see everyone's WeChat's message and everything. So if something like this happened, they would go into your home and give your phone to me, and they would check and then just took them to the camp or maybe pre-camp.
As someone who lived under the communist system in China until the age of 12, can you briefly describe what that experience was like?
I started to wear hijab when I was 9. I wore it really happily. I wanted myself. No one forced me. And at that time I was in a school, of course. I was, I think, a 4th grade. And then it was, of course, forbidden. The wearing hijab was forbidden. But I'll tell you one story of us. In my class, girls just started to wear hijab and wear long abayas and everything, and they're just girls. We're gonna wear this and no one can say nothing to us. And we were okay, let's do it. We were so happy and brave for that. And then you in every Monday we would go to the school ground, and then the flag would be raised. And then at that time we went to the ground, and then we were lining, and all the girls in my class was wearing hijab, and the school principal saw us. He was take off that. He just on the microphone he shout out like this, and we didn't took it out. And then one teacher came and just pushed out our hijabs. After that, of course, everything got really strict, and then in every street you can see a panel that shows you Turkish flag. And I remember I saw East Turkestan's flag too. Anything that describes Islamic thing was driven, and there were a line, and in the under they said it's forbidden. If you do that, you would see the result of these. And my mom would don't ever do it out loud. They would judge you. And then in our house, some nights, in the 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., suddenly a lot of police with huge lights come to our house and looking into our from our window, that if we're reading Quran or reading prayer. And we were acting to sleep at that time. I clearly remember this. I'm with my sister, let's just pretend to be asleep. And then they would go into our home and talk with my dad, look at everywhere, and they would go out. And one time my dad started to hide all of the books in our home, because there were a huge book room, library in our house, and he just started to collect all of the Islamic books and hide it into our basement. And then again, a lot of police with their huge guns came to our house and started to look for everything. And we were so scared that if they put a camera in our house, and we would scared to talk about anything that about Islamic or this. Maybe after that event, 1 or 2 of them would get into a prison, or in the phone, in the WeChat, if we're talking assalamu alaikum, there is a emoji assalamu alaikum, right? If you send this to someone, if they caught you, if they see you in their screen, they would take you to the prison. So in our building there were so many people's dad, father was in the prison, and they were so like having a like hard time with their mom.
And what about the Chinese people? Are there any Chinese defending the Uyghurs?
I can't clearly say that they are, but at that like COVID-19 time, that all like the COVID just ended in the world and then again started in China, and China closed up all of the East Turkestan, and they couldn't even go out for buying food, and people were like dying because of starving. Even if they have money, they couldn't go out. And the China like published something like, if you go out, if you don't ask a permission from us and go out, take a food, you would go into prison. They literally published that. And then people were like posting videos that their mouth was locked with some lock or some like, something like this. They were posting videos like this on Douyin in Chinese TikTok. And then after 3 months, people literally starved there. And in Urumqi, we call Big Bazaar, in that building, one of the house was started to like get fire, and they couldn't go out because the doors was locked with like iron. They couldn't go out because of the fire, and they called like 911, and then they came and they watered like just in front of that house. It gone viral in China, and people that against that China is doing this to us tried to started to raise up their voice, and they started like white paper action, and also China like took them into prison, or they, like killed them, or anything else happened. But yeah, they tried to help us, but now everything is oppressed again.
Can you tell us about your uncle?
My uncle was 28 years old, and in 2016 we went to his wedding to Urumqi. We had really good time with our family. I have some of the pictures, and we just witnessed his wedding, right? And then we came back to Turkey like hardly. And then after just a year, we heard that he's in prison.
Why?
One night they just came into his house. His child was just born. His son was 40 days old, and they told him that they would ask him something, and they took them. After that date, there is no information about him for 2 years. And then I published some video about my uncle, that he's in prison since 7 years. Why is he in prison? To China, I was like saying like, China, answer me. What is happening? Why is my uncle in prison? He did nothing criminal. And they said he contacted with their relatives in abroad, which means us. He listened something Islamic, which means Quran, or like something really normal. They said these two reasons, and I'm like, okay, where is the crime? How can you put him into prison for that? So after I published some videos, the Chinese consulate in Ankara called me, and they're like, ask us about your uncle. We would answer you. Why are you posting videos and everything? We are your government, because I'm also a Chinese citizen. I'm like, okay, let me ask from you. Answer me. Where is my uncle since 7 years? I don't know what my grandma is having right now, what emotion that she's having right now. One of her son is in Turkey. One of her son is in prison. And she can't like talk with each of them. And they're like, make me wait for 3 months, and then called me and said, he's in prison for 10 and maybe more years. Don't call us again. Chinese embassy told me that. And after that, I just started to like again posting videos and advocating for my uncle. And his son is raising like without his dad, and his best times is without his father. I can't even imagine what he's like experiencing right now.
What about the scholars?
Scholars, rich people, academics, everyone is in prison or dead right now. The first thing they did was arresting them, because the scholars, the writers, and everyone would lead a nation. They know that. The CCP knows that, and they caught them, and the scholars are in prison under the torture.
Do they really place a Chinese person in every household?
Yeah. They would take the family's father, or the brother, and everyone who is a man would go into the concentration camp, and then they would place Chinese men with the women in that home. They would sleep together forcibly to see that if in that home are people praying, are people reading some book, or are them wearing hijab or anything. So to watch them, they place Chinese men to Uyghurs' home and make them live together forcibly. Also, China is forcing Uyghur girls to marry Chinese men. Like, I'm a I'm a Turkish. Uyghurs are Turkish minority. I'm not Chinese. And China can't accept that. They want us to be Chinese, but we're not.
You mentioned women who were forced to live with Chinese men. What about the others? Can you also talk about the women in the concentration camps?
Concentration camp survivor came to our house in 2019 or 2018. She like accidentally came to our house and from Urumqi to Kazakhstan to Turkey, Istanbul. And then we found out that she's a concentration camp survivor. She was so like thin and her hair was like cut it off and she was like shaking and her psychology, the physical condition was not good. And she started to talk about what happened, what is happening in concentration camps to the girls, to the women, from 7 years old to 70 years old. Really, I mean that. To 80 years old, even to 80 years old, not 70. And they would live in a room, and then in that room, they would sleep at an iron-based, and they would sleep like this, not like this.
Iron bed.
Yeah, iron bed. And then 15 of them would sleep at that night. 15 of them would like be stayed up to control them. And then they would have a camera in that room and they would have a toilet, but there is no door for the toilet. There is no place to wash their hands. There is nothing that nearly looks like toilet paper. And every day one Chinese police come to their room and take out call one woman or one girl. They would take off all of her clothes in front of everyone and then take her to another room and try to rape her.
If she doesn't do this,
she would get tortured with Chinese torture. Every day, one girl would go into that room naked and getting tortured, getting raped, getting sterilized, and everything would happen to them. And every month, the people in that room would change to the 13 of them, not have a bond in front, between them. So they would change that.